welcome back, and in this video I'm going to show you how to establish a connection between your local machine and a remote server. In this case, the HPC machine or HPC cluster I am trying to connect with, it is Xanadu cluster, and that way you are trying to establish this connection will depend on whether you are using a Mac or you are going to be using a Windows. So if you're using a Mac, then you'll be using the terminal utility that comes along with the Mac operating system. In case of the Windows, there is no, as far as I know, in older systems there was no utility that used to come or facilitate this connection to a Linux server. So for that one, I have shown you, basically suggested you a PuTTY application in my previous video. So please go and watch that if you don't know what I mean. So you need that particular application to establish connection to a Linux server. So I'm going to demonstrate using a Mac. So if you're using a Mac, you go in your applications, then you go in your utilities folder, and in utility folder, you're going to go to terminal and double click and start the terminal. So let me make the font a bit bigger, so that's easily readable. So that the next thing, as I mentioned in my previous video, the way you try to establish this connection is using the command SSH. So if some of you are wondering what the messages are on the top, please ignore those ones. Those are going to be very different depending upon what changes you have made to your terminal bash profile or GSS profile. So if you don't know what these are, just completely ignore those particular ones. What you're going to do here is following this $sign, which is referred as the command prompt. You're going to type the command SSH, which is establishing a secure shell connection, and following that you're going to provide the address to which you would like to connect. So I want to connect to Xanadu submit external, but before that what I'm going to do is going to provide my user ID. So I'm going to say vsync at Xanadu submit ext.cam.uchc.edu. So I provided the SSH command, given a space, provided my user ID at, and then the address of the machine I would like to connect to. So that's generally this is the format. You hit return. The moment you hit return, is going, if you're using whether the Mac or a Windows, a message will appear establishing that this is the first time you're trying to establish a connection to this particular machine, and would you like to continue or would you like to go ahead and establish this connection. So just say yes, because this is a security thing which your laptop is letting you know, or your operating system is letting you know that you're trying to establish a connection with a remote machine. So say yes, because that's what we are intending to do. So once you do that, you will see this is now actually prompting me for my password. So I'm going to do and type my password here, and I'm keep on typing my password, and you can see there's nothing happening over there, and I have typed my password and hit return. Now it lets me in. So the moment you basically so this is where I actually typed my password is, and I successfully typed my password correct. So you can see that there is a following that it let me inside the system, and it gives me a login message, or you can say welcome message, which has changes as and when system admin would like to bring certain new changes to the policy, or the certain new facts that has been implemented on the cluster. All those changes are generally brought to the attention of the user by providing some welcome message. Most of the time this welcome message remains the same, but it's quite occasionally it will change as well. So it's a good idea to keep looking for any new basically you can say message lines over there. So that's a good one. So now you can see that what I can see is it actually shows me that I am in HPC ext3. So I'm already established a connection, and tells me that I am using 0.56 terabytes of 1 terabyte home directory. If you see this one, that's fine, and if you don't see this one also is okay. Now the thing is, the way why I am seeing this HPC ext3, and some of you when you first time log in may not end up seeing this one. So don't get worried if you don't see it, that's okay. So the best way to see where you are on the cluster is a command called hostname. Just simply type that hostname, and that will tell you where you are on the cluster. So you are on hpc ext3.cam.uchc.edu. So essentially what has happened, that when I submitted the command SSH user ID Xanadu submit external, I provided the username and password, so it connects me to the Xanadu Submit external. But as I mentioned in previous video, I'll then automatically get assigned to one of the virtual submit nodes. So for now, what I have been assigned to is HPC ext3. Okay, so anytime you establish the connection, finished your work, and want to close the connection, the command is exit. Hit return, and you can see now the command prompt, it pretty much is my MacBook. So I'm at my MacBook now. So let me clear up this screen. The command to clear the screen is clear, and hit return. So you'll see that everything goes off, your new screen. Now this time I'm going to directly establish the connection to HPC ext4, let's say, bypassing Xanadu Submit externals. How to do that? So you can do SSH, and same user ID. Your user ID don't change on the system, and then you say hpc-ext4.cam.ucsc.edu. Hit return. Again, because that machine is a new machine, is going to prompt me and tell me, okay, that virtual submit node you're trying to connect to is a new machine and the system has never known it before. Do you would like to go ahead and establish the connection? So I would say yes, and it's going to prompt me for the password for again. So I'm going to provide my password again. And if I have my private password correctly, then this time I landed in HPC ext4, because that's what I specifically specified, that when I am trying to establish the secure shell connection, take me to the HPC ext4. That's why it takes me to HPC ext4. So this way you can connect to either. If you don't want to specify which virtual submit node you would want to go to, then you can simply say Xanadu submit, xanadu-submit-ext.cam.ucsc.edu. In that case, it's going to, based on the load on these 5 virtual submit nodes, is going to assign automatically one of those ones. But for some reason, sometimes it happens that you would specifically would like to go back to the same virtual submit node you were using before. So you can do that by using this particular trick, where you're going to provide SSH and your user ID, and followed by the address of the virtual submit node you're trying to connect to. The same rules apply if you're trying to use Xanadu Submit internal. You just simply replace HPC ext with int, and Xanadu Submit with Xanadu Submit ext with Xanadu Submit internal. But overall, the whole thing remains pretty much the same. So this is what I would like to cover in this video, just trying to give you a hands-on like how you establish the connection to a server. So we are now on the Xanadu server, and whatever command now I'm going to get execute or type here and try to execute it, those commands are not getting executed on my local machine. I am now on the head node, on the submit node, or the virtual submit node. All the commands will be executed there, and the resources would be used from whichever the submit node I am on. So just to keep in mind, so we are now virtually using the resources of the remote machine, but not our local machine. Okay, so this is it, and the next one I will give you some more demonstrations about looking into some resources about the cluster.